And a good morning to you. A few little demons and gremlins in here this morning, but we got it worked out. I'd like to say a personal thank you to Facebook for creating that havoc for the last 8 minutes. But we got it all fixed. Lanny Ford, remember, the G-Man, and I was told the other day by a dedicated listener that you need to put the microphone closer to you or I need to turn you up, one of the two.
Yeah,
because I was told that when this person adjusts their volume to me, they can't hear you because I'm loud. But I don't mean to be. I said I try to keep Ford turned up loud, but I don't know if that's going to work. Mm-hmm. Wow. Glad to have you along this morning. I'm surprised by the weather. I was on the paper route this morning and had a little bit of misty rain off and on. I don't know where that came from and who ordered that, but a nice fall morning for me. I thought it was a great fall morning, so I'll take it. That's the way I look at it. No real breaking news that I know of other than in the NBA, Dame Lillard is going to the Bucks. Everybody thought he was going to Toronto, but he's going to the Bucks.
I can see why he doesn't want to go to Canada.
Why? Tell me why.
Nothing.
He's going to the Bucks in a blockbuster 3-team deal. The one thing I do like about the NBA is you have to trade dollar for dollar on contracts. You can't just trade player A for player B. The value of who you trade has to equal all the way around, keeps you kind of inside the cap. And that's why a lot of times there's more than one team involved. You got to move multiple pieces to make all the salary information work out. But Portland Trailblazers have traded Damian Lillard. I think he's 33. Isn't he 33?
It says that he is.
It's kind of like when LeBron was at Cleveland. Nobody's going to Portland to play.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to Cleveland to play.
Yeah.
So we will see how that goes.
Let's see. Hold on.
9 hours ago, Acuna created the 40-70 club as the Braves clinched the number 1 seed. Now, is that the number 1 seed in the – what are they in? National League?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
National League. I apologize.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then here's why you can't just buy players and win championships. $880 million, 0 playoff games is why the Mets, Yankees, and Padres became 2023's biggest money disappointments. Now, sometimes that does –
Yeah, sure it does.
But
sure does.
Was it not the Marlins that kind of broke that when they didn't, but they would accumulate enough talent, they won a World Series, and then they disassembled the team.
The next year. Yeah. So, I mean, you buy to win a championship, and the thing about it is, it doesn't matter if it's professional sports or, college sports. Notice I didn't say amateur. And then amateur sports, okay? It doesn't matter. The talent is great, but that is not what wins championships. It wins games. And, sometimes you can get together like the Marlins did, and it does, but on a consistent basis, that formula doesn't work. That's why, when Billy Beane, we talk about Moneyball, when that kind of broke through, and what you do is you find quality and value, and then, you make it applicable to what, you're trying to do. The issue with Oakland during that time is they weren't built to win a championship, even in the quality and value side of things, because of they just didn't have the bullpen, they didn't have the extra intangibles it takes to be that championship type team. They had most of the guys on that team were lower level players, considered that way, that played above performance, but then when it came against players that were equally, greater than, in those championship settings on a series basis, it makes it very tough.
But the other thing that happens when you bring in superstars, that doesn't always equate to playoff wins, because sometimes even those superstars kind of get small when it comes to playoff and big game situations, whether it's baseball, basketball. They've said that for years about
Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah, and
which is crazy, but it's just a tendency.
Is it
crazy.
James Harden or one of those guys? It's a great player during the season, but they just kind of wilt. when they get to playoffs, can't deal with the big moments.
Maybe they play too many games during the year.
They do play too many games. Let me tell you who's in baseball. The Atlanta Braves since September the 10th. The Dodgers, the Orioles. They've secured a playoff win. And the Bucks, Bucks. The Rays, same city.
Yeah, same city.
Tampa Bay Rays, unless they can catch the Orioles for the East crown, they'll host a wild card series as a number 4. The Brewers clinched the playoff series with a blowout over the Marlins and secured the Central title.
Yep.
The Twins clinched the Central title with a win over the AL Central with a win over the Angels last week. And the Phillies have cinched a playoff spot with a win against the Pirates on Tuesday. And then just a few hours later, secured the number 4 overall seed with the Cubs loss. So they will host the number 5 seed for wild card. Then who's next? The bubble teams, the Rangers, the Blue Jays, and the Diamondbacks. That's the ones that are still kind of in the mix. Projected playoff bracket would look like this. It would be the Rangers and the Orioles with first-round byes. The wild cards would be Houston versus the Twins, Blue Jays versus the Rays, and on the National League side, the Dodgers and the Braves would be set waiting in the division. The wild cards would be the Marlins versus the Brewers and the Diamondbacks against the Phillies. The Phillies could be a tough out for the Braves.
That's what I was going to say. That would be the one to me that would be pretty tough.
Completely off topic. Tell me the last time that Fresno State was undefeated in football.
G's all about football.
I know.
I'll
go there.
We'll get there.
I'll go there.
Tell me the last time that.
I don't know that Fresno State's ever been undefeated. Have they?
Yeah.
Okay. In college football, Michigan State made it official yesterday, firing Mel Tucker, for bringing ridicule to the program. They fired him with cause, which means he stands to lose about $76 million, I think is what he had left on his contract. So we'll see where that goes. That will be negotiated out, is basically what they're going to do there. Now, I saw this too. College football shelves talk of changes while the Pac-12 situation plays out. There is no Pac-12.
Yeah.
What, 4 teams left after next year?
No.
Yeah. I'm kind of like you. I just don't. I think things are going to evolve very quickly.
Yeah.
They have been, but I'm talking about even more to, just a centralized teams, and then they play from there.
And the reason, there's still a possibility that the Mountain West schools will merge with the Pac-12.
Yes.
And then what happens is you go to 4 power conferences. But where some of this is trying to be determined is right now, 80% of the college football playoff money goes to the Power 5 conferences. 20% goes to the Group 5. So does that change, or does it matter?
I'm sure things will change some.
But I think all that's going to change because I think everybody's going to start negotiating their own deals. It's not going to matter.
Positioning for the next, great run, until somebody doesn't get in the playoffs or somebody starts fussing about that or it's not fair, and then everything starts to, crumble from that. It's unfortunate. It's not that you don't, evaluate and adjust and monitor things and all this, but, I can't let last year go. I can't let it go. It's just what I'm saying is, and again, I do not. I went to East Carolina. Okay, I don't like anybody. Okay, I have to have that chip on my shoulder if I'm gonna be a Pirate. But I don't like it when they say we're going to get the best 4 teams in, and then somebody loses a conference championship game, and all of a sudden we don't want to count that. It's a football game, isn't it? It's part of your body of work, isn't it? Yeah, but you lost. We're going to leave you at number 2 anyway. All right, what if you played Alabama? Who would be favored? Well, Alabama's number 5. That's not what I asked. Who would be favored? Well, Alabama would be. But, okay, then why are they not in?
But the problem is, where are those odds coming from of being favored? Is that betting lines? Is that football analysis?
I think it's both. I think it's common sense is what it is.
Yeah.
And we had none last year, and we had a terrible football playoff.
Well, that's why they
We had
sped up this
TCU
process of getting more
over
teams in.
Th-
Because,
but that's not what solves the issue.
but they can't make a decision. It is if you can't make a decision.
No, correct, but that is not the issue.
Oh, I didn't say it was.
Based
It's
on,
a
no,
workaround.
you are right what you said. What I'm saying is that is not the issue. The issue is we're going to get the best 4 teams in. We've got this committee, and all of a sudden, because somebody loses 2 games, that doesn't make them one of the best teams. That's not true.
I'm going to come
That's
back
not true.
with the thought.
What if 5 people had COVID? What if their best? I'm just giving an example.
Yeah.
Their best player broke his arm and then comes back 3 weeks later and they lose 2 games, so he broke his arm. Who's the best team? Well, yeah, but they had 2 losses.
That
I
doesn't
don't
matter.
care.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Your job is to put the best for. This is the problem with everything. You're worried about hurting somebody else's feelings or the appearance of what something thinks. And as soon as you worry about what somebody else says, especially when we're supposed to be in charge of something, you start losing the value that you originally brought, which was to be, basically non-filtered, okay, and do the right thing for right reasons. This is the baby society that we're in. Oh, we don't hurt anybody's feelings. Look, if you're going to have a mandate, friggin' stick to it and do your job, okay, and stop worrying about all the whiny butts.
Yep.
All right, do your job, put the best teams in. So what you say is truth when you put it out there.
How much of that?
Unbelievable,
How much
dude.
is
Sorry.
that is
Sorry.
controlled
I'm all right.
through TV money? How much input do you think they have? Because I'll go back to another scenario when it comes to bowl games.
least 60%.
There's bowl games that have conference tie-ins, but sometimes they don't. They work around those tie-ins because Team A will travel better to Bowl C than Team A would travel to Bowl B.
I think
because
that's
the
okay.
fans.
I think that's okay.
No,
I think that's okay
Yeah,
because
but
the fans are
is
what
that,
make
but
college
is that,
football.
But is that not part of what's going on here?
I don't think
about-
so in the national
you-
championship.
You don't think so? You don't think TV eyeballs has anything to do with
TV
it?
does.
Okay.
TV does. Absolutely.
Not fans traveling. I'm talking about TV
I'm
eyeballs.
sorry, I
when you get to-
misunderstood.
Yeah, yeah,
When you get to, I'm just giving you an example.
Yeah.
In the bowls,
Yeah.
the way the bowls kind of bend the rules,
Oh, 100%.
even though there's rules.
Yeah.
I just wonder how much of that goes on.
Mm-hmm.
And part of this goes back to what has been the complaint and the reason what happened to the NCHSAA did. There's not transparency to see
yes.
what happens. It's like the ping pong balls in the NBA draft. If there's nothing sneaky going on, put it on stage. They do the lottery that way.
Yeah,
They all the Mega Millions and the Powerball, all that stuff's done live where somebody watches the ball pop out, but they don't do that.
See, I'm not, to be very clear here, I'm not hating on TCU. They had a remarkable year
Right.
and great players. Those young men, played hard. Obviously, they had a great training staff to keep the players healthy. Coaches did a great job. I'm not down on them. What I'm talking about is if you're going to set a standard of rules, then go by them.
Yeah.
It says nothing about wins and losses in that
Yeah.
I've ever seen. If I'm wrong, somebody shows it, I'm saying, hey, you know what? You're right. I didn't see that.
Yeah.
But it says the best 4 teams. This is just, what other lie are we going to see?
So-
I'm tired of all the lying.
Yep.
So I
There's
just
nothing to
pulled up
see here.
Last year's
This
stats.
team was the best.
Yeah.
No, they're not.
Nope.
I just pulled up last
Here, let me
year's
pull this up and grab
rankings.
something out of it.
I just pulled.
Go over here and start sending it through.
I just pulled
Jeez,
up
nothing to see here.
last year's rankings. Alabama had 2 losses all season. TCU had 2 losses all season, and that's also including playoffs and championship game. Blah 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 blah. And then I come all the way down here. They had LSU ranked 16. Wait, 16. We were talking about this a while back. The 4 teams that should be in: Georgia, Michigan, Bama, and LSU.
That's fair.
Did we not talk about that?
The problem there, they're not going to take 3 because of the blowback that they would get.
See, and
now, it doesn't make it right.
There it
but
is. You just
it doesn't make it
exactly.
right, but
Exactly.
it goes to the political side, doing
It's
what's
not
politically
fair.
right. I know.
It's not fair that they got
TCU
3. You know what?
TCU lost
That
to a
ain't what
team
we're
that
talking
had
about.
4 wins,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
even 3 at the time.
Oh, I know.
And they're going to say, well, they still should be in because they've won every
Well,
game. and
the
they
other
lost
side
those
of it, the
close
other
That's
side
right.
of it is
That's right.
they can't give you the reasoning and they can't be consistent about
they
who they
can't.
pick and why they pick. Let me take a break. We come back. Richie, give me some breaking news I'll share with you.
Whether it's a sit-down meal or a call-in for the drive-thru, Brookwood Cafe and Catering is the answer. A variety of meats, vegetables, and desserts cooked daily, or a hot sandwich from the grill, they have what you're looking for to satisfy your taste buds. If you need catering from 5 to 500, Brookwood has you covered as well. Stop by Brookwood Cafe and Catering at 202 Providence Mill Road in Maiden. Don't forget breakfast daily till 11 a.m. Open Tuesday 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., Wednesday through Saturday 6 a.m. till 8 p.m., and Sunday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Call 828-428-8944 to place your order today.
If you ask around, you'll find Burke Mortuary has a reputation for excellence and commitment to value. They've built a reputation of trust for more than 35 years. Burke Mortuary is proud to offer personal attention, meaningful tributes, and the area's most affordable prices. They're also proud to offer you beautiful, state-of-the-art facilities. It's the perfect place to honor your loved one. So when choosing a funeral home, the choice is easy. Choose Burke Mortuary with locations in Maiden and Newton.
Covenant Church began as a vision of just over 100 people in 1984. Since then, Covenant Church has grown and currently located at 2168 Gastonia Highway in Lincoln. The Sunday schedule includes early morning worship at 8:30, Sunday school at 9:45, and morning worship at 10:45. Their ministries extend beyond Sunday. Visit their website at www.covenantchurch.church to see all they have to offer, and better yet, stop by and see for yourself. Covenant Church may be just what you're looking for a new church home. First Federal Savings Bank has been serving Lincoln County since 1940. And as it has been from the beginning, customer service is a priority to First Federal Savings Bank. They want to get to know you by name. First Federal Savings Bank has the convenience, the products, and the services that the larger banks have, but with hometown people that you see throughout your community. Stop in and visit one of their 4 convenient locations and see what First Federal Savings Bank has to offer you. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Untangling your headphones, finding the right remote, saying goodbye to your favorite shirt that hasn't fit in 10 years. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with Auto Owners, insurance doesn't have to be one of them. Auto Owners works with independent agents who live in your community and answer when you call, so you can worry about more important things, like finding a new favorite shirt. That's simple human sense.
Call Mooney Insurance in Maiden or East Lincoln Insurance in Denver, or visit mooneyinsurance.com. Stifel Nicholas now has an office in your community. Stifel Nicholas is a full-service organization offering a wide range of investment vehicles and services. These include money market funds, CDs, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, annuities, retirement plans, and managed accounts, to name a few. Our financial advisors will sit down with you and help you tailor an investment plan, explaining strategies and investments which may help you achieve your personal goals. Call 4Rembert today at 828-624-7300. Stifel Nicholas, member SIPC and the New York Stock Exchange. And welcome back. Happy Thursday. My days just all run together, so it don't really matter. It's the same every day.
Just mad.
Okay, all right, let me ask. We were talking about this off the air, and the news that Richie brings to the table is he said there was a press release yesterday that Clemson will probably be making an announcement in October that they are going to leave the ACC. Not sure how this is going to play out. We'll have to wait and see on that. He also said, and to your point, G, Richie said, tell him the last time that Carolina and Duke were 4-0 in the same year.
All right. So,
no, all kidding
so we
aside.
got to take a time machine now.
Yeah, really.
Because they didn't.
No, you're right.
that
You're
long,
right.
so
Is
we gotta
that
take a
when
time machine.
That'd be when
Spurrier
Cud-
was
when
that when
Cudcliffe-
Spurrier was coaching?
No.
Gosh.
Huh?
I'd have
No,
to go
it
back
had
and
to be
see.
before
I mean,
that.
you know what I'm talking about when
Yeah.
when Duke won the ACC championship. I mean, is that the last time that both would be 4-0?
No. You would have to go back before that.
Before Spurrier was coaching at Duke, my God, I don't think the football happened before then, did it?
Let's
I think they were
see.
still farming potatoes back then.
The Duke football team did it in is consecutive. Duke is 4-0 in consecutive seasons for the first time in 65 years. They did it in 52, 53, and then it wasn't until 2018.
Back-to-back years, but I'm saying the last time Carolina and Duke
Oh, yeah.
were 4-0.
I don't even know how I Google that.
Would it be – no, I'm just saying would it be when Spurrier was the head coach at Duke?
You would have to go back to the 1300s.
But I don't know who was coaching
something.
at Carolina because Carolina fell off the radar there for a long time.
Yeah.
Mac was Mac in at that time, and then Spurrier left. 'Cause, you know, Carolina was pretty good then too.
Let's see if I can find that. Last time, Duke, 1971.
So it
That
back
wasn't
then
Spurrier.
either. No, that's way before.
Mm-mm.
How about that? Is that basketball?
I believe that was basketball.
Then we're gonna have.
Well,
I don't know. I don't even know. I don't know if you can find that.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Well, 50 years. It says right here, for the first time since 1971, the Tar Heels and the Blue Devils are 4-0. Carolina's 15, Duke is 17. So there you go. It was 50 years.
They got that switched.
Over 50 years. And I don't remember when
They got those rankings switched.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
Oh yeah.
Yep,
No,
that's
I'm
what.
being-
That's
I'm
what.
being funny.
And Todd just said the same thing.
Yeah, I'm being funny, but all kidding aside, who would you say would be the better team right now?
Carolina is.
Yeah.
You think
And they
they're
probably
better
got.
than
They probably
Duke?
got more depth.
You think they're
Duke.
better than Duke?
Yeah.
Wow.
Now,
Their
are we
defense.
talking? Are we talking defense or offense?
We're
or
talking.
both?
We're talking football team.
Oh, then I think Carolina will still get the edge because
Wow.
their defense is slightly lower than Duke's.
Slightly. It ain't close.
All right, that is fair. But I still think that Carolina's offense is much better than Duke's offense.
Well, relative. No, I don't disagree with that. If you line them up and say, let's look at both offenses. They got these players. They got these players. But relative to what they do, I don't know. I don't know if you can. And it's about the team, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if. I mean, we're gonna find out, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Was that last year, Link? Link said Penn State beats Ohio State, wins Big Ten championship, and they
Whoa.
send Ohio State to the playoffs. Was that last year
Yeah. Or
or year before last?
Yeah, maybe.
I think it's because Penn State had such a worse record that they couldn't just switch them out. But and a lot of times the Big Ten are completely they're not two evenly matched teams a lot of times. That
No,
you don't
that's
see
very
that.
true.
You
That's
don't
very
see that
true.
as well.
Very true.
All right, the question I was going to ask a minute ago, and this is something I think we were talking about off the air. We were talking about Alabama, and Forrest said that he thought Clemson was in trouble. I think they're in trouble.
Yes.
I think they're in trouble, and I think I told you this at the last practice. If Clemson falls out of the spotlight, it'll be hard for them to get back because they're not a perennial power like a Ohio State, like an
Michigan,
Alabama,
Michigan.
Michigan now. It's easier for them to get back.
Georgia.
It's going to be hard. And then the other side of it is
Because they're not even in the top 10.
they're not in the top 25.
yeah, they're not even.
no.
They
they're
won't.
not.
They won't be in the top 25 at the end of the year. I still say they've got 4 games that I think they'll go 2-2 on. That's left on the schedule.
Potentially.
They still got to play
could, yeah.
Carolina. They
Yeah.
got to play Notre Dame. They got to play Miami,
They play South Carolina again
and they got to play South
at
Carolina.
the end of the year.
I
Yeah, it's gonna be tough.
have a weird feeling that South Carolina could beat that team in overtime.
Yeah.
Oh
I
well,
just have
and
something
Clemson's
in
not
the back of
Clemson's
my
not
head
built
is
to go
telling
to
me-
overtime.
Yeah.
is telling me
Yeah.
that if they go into overtime,
They should have
South
went to
Carolina
overtime with
will-
Florida State.
Yeah.
and
That should
they,
never
and,
happen.
and what like, and who else did they have to play?
They got North Carolina, South Carolina, Notre Dame, Miami.
That's
And
tough.
They're gonna lose
don't go to
Notre
sleep
Dame.
on Miami.
They're gonna lose
No,
to Notre
no,
Dame
no, no,
or
no.
Miami.
Don't go to sleep.
Because there's no way they go 1-3. Because if they go 1-3 against 4
That's what's
teams,
going to
Nothing.
happen.
if that,
What's going to happen if you see them fall off like that? That portal thing is really going to become key because you're going to have players leaving Clemson through the portal, not coming in. Richie said Dabo has to change his philosophy on the portal and get his recruiting process to get back. The problem is, Richie, that's where he doesn't want to do it because that's how he made his name in college football was through recruiting. That's how he got the job. He had never been a coordinator, ever. And he had been out of football a little bit and just got back into football as an assistant wide receiver coach at Clemson, but he was a great recruiter because he does make a good sale. But that's not where you're getting the players to compete for championships now, are not coming out of high school. I'm going to go get this 21-year-old that's got 2 or 3 years of playing experience at the college level, has developed his man body, and I don't have to develop that player. He's plug and play. He's ready to go. And that's how everybody else has done it.
And I've seen whether or not he's got social or emotional issues, because he's been.
How is he with the team?
Right. Is he got all these things that you have to deal with the first couple of years?
Baggage.
For acclimation, just part of growing up. Some maybe 3 or 4 years, but this is a good point. You bring a kid in when they're a high school kid, you bring them in, and everything looks to be good. You do your homework on it, you make an offer, you bring them in, and then for whatever reason, things just fall apart. You don't have to worry about that when you bring in a 23-year-old.
Let me give you another couple questions here. And this is where I was going when we were talking about the Alabama thing. Alabama, Nick Saban is a Bill Belichick disciple.
Yeah.
Yes.
He is of the defensive side of the ball.
Yes.
Okay? So when you've got somebody like that, or Andrew, just go ahead and get fired up, you've got somebody like Dabo who is not an X's and O's guy. Never has been. That's not how he got to where he's at. When you take coaches like that have revolving door of coordinators because they're very good at what they do, and you don't, as the head man, have the experience to make the proper decision of what you're going to allow or not allow. In Nick's case, I think he brought in offensive guys because they had already made this turn to go to a different thing. Lane Kiffin leaves. I got to keep this ball rolling. Dabo doesn't know. He promotes from within so he can kind of keep control over everything, but he's not got that kind of experience, and you see the fall off in both of them. Now, you don't always see those coordinators work as well as you would like. Sometimes they do. Harbaugh's got head coaching experience. Lane Kiffin had head coaching experience.
Yeah.
But you've got to be able to, I think, you have to be able to evaluate and not just hand the keys to the Corvette to the next coordinator that comes in and change everything that you've built and how you've made your, as you were saying, how you made your money getting there to championships based on a certain philosophy and the way you play.
Yeah, it's just, when you look at the way things are, it's not the strongest that survive because Clemson, is one of the strongest, programs the last
20 years.
10, 20 years. Okay.
Dabo's been there 16.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Very, very strong. It's those most willing to adapt to the changes in environment around them.
So wait, how many national championships does Dabo have with?
Dabo has 2.
Clemson
has 3.
Clemson has 3. So he's brought twice as many.
He brought 2.
No, and that's a valid point. But my point is, as things evolve over time, the way that things have always been done doesn't make it wrong. It may not make it conducive to the current environment.
Yes.
So that's why the strongest don't survive is those most willing to adapt to the changes and acclimate to the current environment. And, I don't blame anybody for trying to have a process and stick with it. The stage 4 in the evaluation of the entire process of anything you're doing is monitor, evaluate, and adjust. All right? I think there's been monitoring going on. I think there's been a lot of evaluating going on. Now I think it's time to adjust. So it's a 4-part series in any process that you have.
And I'm not taking away anything. Okay.
No. I never have.
Two national championships. Dabo's 2 national championships, 8 ACC championships,
Yes.
10 Atlantic Division championships.
What's somebody gonna say? He's not good at what he does? No, that's not what that means.
No.
In the process, you listen and learn. I don't care if it's your marriage. I don't care if it's friendships you have. Anything. You listen and learn. You get as educated as you can. You watch things. You study, test, analyze, and model it. All right? All right, make sure you throw all the bias and all the, things that may skew what you're trying to, understand out the door so you can come to the right conclusion. Once you've done that, you implement whatever it is you're trying to do, and then after everything's implemented, then you monitor, evaluate, and adjust. This is for every phase of your life of anything that you want quality. It's nothing. It's the same thing, that we even do that with our kids, coaching our youth league kids. It's just the problem is the adjustment side of things. There's been hesitation there because this is not the way I've done it in the past, and I want to show that I can do this through this way. Well, sometimes you got to back up, and guess what? You got to punt. That's okay.
Yep.
That's how you learn. This doesn't make you. I mean, this guy basically came from not being a coordinator, right? Just being a wide receiver coach, and look what he's done. It's incredible. I'm not going to jump and pounce on him. What I'm saying is, it may be time to adjust.
But I think the lack of being in that type of decision-making position that is hurting him now because he doesn't know how to think and reason through that.
Well, I mean, it's just like being, like in the school system, right? Let's say that you've never driven a bus, all right? You've never worked in the cafeteria. You haven't done janitorial things, right? All you've done is teach, and let's just say you teach a subject. And then all of a sudden you get promoted to a, principal's job or assistant principal or whatever. Well, you have to oversee those things, but do you have a fundamental understanding of what actually goes on?
No.
The answer is no. So doesn't mean you're not going to do a good job, but how effective will you be if you don't understand?
I have said for a long time, I've said as a philosophy side, especially in any business, whoever's running the business, and we've gotten away from this with the way that we hire and fire CEOs now. Well, they were great over here. I'm going to bring them over here, but that don't always translate.
Correct.
So I have always felt if you run a company, and I've always done it in any company I've been involved in, there is not a job of anybody that works for me that I can't do that job. I may not be great at it,
right? But you know how to do it.
But I know how it functions.
Right,
I know the part that it plays inside
right.
of the operation of the company. I think it's the same thing when it comes to coaching.
Sure, it is.
You have to come up and be a player, an assistant, a coordinator, and then eventually a head coach. You have to experience all those roles, or you can't adjust and identify what's needed at those other roles if you don't.
Right.
If you've never been there, you can't do that. Now, I went back and looked up, and I promise this is not a jump on Dabo day. It's not.
No. It's
he was
a
wide receiver coach at Alabama.
Yep.
He had only worked at Alabama, but he worked there for 7 years. Then he left football for 3 years and went into real estate.
Yes.
Okay? And then he was hired back by Tommy Bowden because he was Sweeney's position coach at Alabama when Dabo Swinney played. They offered him the position coach. He took over as recruiting coordinator from longtime coordinator Rick Stockstill, and he proved to be not only an excellent wide receivers coach, but a recruiting coordinator, and was named one of the nation's top 25 recruiters in 2007.
100%.
And then in 2008, when Bowden stepped down after 6 games, that's when they promoted. They gave Dabo the interim job, and then he comes in and they make him the permanent job. But they did that over the defensive coordinator, Vic Koenig, who used to be at Wyoming, Brad Scott, which I was never a fan of Brad's because he worked with the chickens, and I never liked what he did with the linemen. And then his first actions as interim head coach was to fire offense coordinator Rob Spence and introduce a new tradition. Now, to me, you got to be careful when you come in and do those kinds of things. He was hired from within the staff, and I was trying to figure out when that happened, where did he get his bank of knowledge and experience to make those type of decisions? It was sometimes it can just be somebody you just rubbed the wrong way.
Yeah.
You know? But anyway,
it's all about relationships.
I have a
Yeah.
quick question.
very
that's
well
what it is.
accomplished.
So Clemson has 8 games left.
Mm-hmm.
3 against ranked opponents.
Mm-hmm.
These are their next 8 games.
Mhm.
Syracuse, Wake Forest, Miami,
Mhm.
NC State, Notre Dame,
NC
Georgia
State will give them
Tech,
problems too.
UNC, South Carolina.
Mhm.
Out of all of those 8 games, what do you think the record will be just based off those 8 games?
At best 6-2.
At best 6-2.
At best 6-2, which would make them 8-4 on the season. Been a long
What
time
I've
since
seen
they were
right
8-4.
now, probably 4-4.
Because
4-4.
and here's why.
That's what I think.
I don't think they'll have a problem with Syracuse.
No,
I don't think they'll have a problem with Wake Forest. And then
Notre
you've got
Dame,
a 3-game gauntlet at Miami, at NC State, and then Notre Dame at home. And then Georgia Tech, I'm not worried about.
No.
And then you've got to play
UNC.
Carolina at home, and then you got to go to Columbia to play South Carolina.
Brutal.
I mean, I just think from where they're at, it's going to be tough.
4-4.
I think they'll beat Carolina.
That would
At
not
best,
surprise me.
4-4. They
Yeah, I
will.
think
they
they'll-
So
will
are you
lose
thinking?
to
Are you
Notre
thinking
Dame.
Clemson burst Carolina's
Yeah.
bubble?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When was the last time that Clemson beat Notre Dame?
I think we went up there and beat them. They came to our place and beat us when I was a senior in high school because that was my official visit weekend. Saw Joe Montana play. And then I think we went up there 2 or 3 years later and beat them. Look at look at Carolina's schedule.
All right.
And that's where I'm trying to get to now. Come on. They've got left. They'll struggle with
Syracuse,
Miami.
Miami, Virginia, Georgia.
And they'll struggle with Duke and State.
Yes, they will.
I think. Those aren't just pure.
State, they will have a rough game against NC
Oh,
State.
of course.
and
It's a
Duke.
rival game. That's why I'm saying when Duke
NC State,
when
Duke. I
Clemson and
think they
Carolina
can
play,
can't.
it's going to be huge.
Now, they've got a 3-game stretch after Miami that's tough. Virginia, Georgia Tech, and the Camels from Campbell. Tell me that ain't.
The Dan Campbell.
And then Duke is at home. Duke, Clemson State, that's not an easy road to hoe either.
The Dan
All those are at
Campbell.
home.
No, they got to go to Clemson, got to go to State, but that's their last 3 games of the season.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good little gauntlet for Carolina.
They got to go to
State and got to go to Clemson.
now.
That-
If they get through that, I give them their due.
But their
They're
next,
going to have to get through it.
their next
Duke has a-
5 games,
Just Miami.
4 are at home.
I think
And the only one they go away for the next 5 game is Georgia Tech.
Okay, so they're at home against Miami. Yeah, that's
Duke's next 8 games, 2 of them against ranked opponents.
Let's see if I can
If they
find it.
go 6-2 to end off, then that makes them 10-2. But
Who's going to win the ACC?
who's going to win ACC?
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, with Duke beating Clemson and just absolutely nothing expecting, I couldn't tell you who's going to win it.
Florida State did not show me what I thought they were going to show me.
there's still some questions here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions
There's a
there.
lot of
Duke
questions.
Duke has Notre Dame tonight.
Yes.
That's tonight. Now we'll find out which one of those 2 teams are kind of real when tonight
Duke
comes.
and Notre Dame play.
Yeah.
That'll answer the
They
questions
play
I
on
got.
Saturday. They
That-
play
Well,
on Saturday.
and then here's
They play on Saturday.
It is the 30th. Yep, Saturday night.
Okay, so it's Saturday night. But that'll answer the questions.
But
We gotta
Notre
know both.
Dame, they've got Notre Dame, State, Florida State. That's a 3 games pretty tough.
Yeah, it is. I
And
just
then-
think they're built for that better than other teams, Laney, because they're a defensive-minded football team.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gauntlets don't matter as much
No.
when you're not an explosive offensive team
Yeah.
because if you have a letdown with that, then you're in trouble because your defense normally is not good. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, I mean, and that's true. That's true. These guys have done the other thing. They've taken the SEC philosophy, and then the next step for them is getting the SEC-type offensive guys in.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's the way they're building this thing. Duke is
Keep
going to
the
end up
defense,
looking more like
change
an
the
SEC
offense.
team.
Keep the defense.
Right.
Don't change anything
right.
about the defense.
Right. Just yeah. Right.
Well,
Just
you
keep
could
doing
change
that.
something.
No,
like,
but you're right, and then bring in
And then-
those better, more dynamic offensive guys,
Yes.
which means basically getting in the I formation, maybe without a fullback sometimes, right? But, getting in the I formation some, even out of the gun, and running the football.
Richie brings up a good point here, and maybe this is what that bothers me. Dabo talks the talk, but I feel like he has some complacency. He talks about how people are happy that they're happy even though they've had down years, but they're still winning 10 games. To me, that screams complacency. That has been my complaint with Mike Tomlin. He's never had a losing season, but it's been a long time since we've sniffed the Super Bowl.
That thing about, I just don't get into that thing about, well, we've won this many games. Look how consistent we are.
No.
I don't know if that's a true – I mean, you can measure that in your own pond.
As a fan, are you okay with that?
No, not at all.
I'm not either.
Hell, as a player, I'm not okay with it.
No.
As well, me personally as a coach, I'm not okay. There's going to be lean years and all that. But, man, if you're not lining up to play for all the marbles – what are you lining up to do? Be average? Averages are what they are. They work themselves out over time, right? But if you consistently are doing that, that's not an average overall. That's an average every year. Is that what you shoot for, is the average? Mm-hmm. Or do you set the bar up here and then maybe hit it here? At least you're not sitting here and hitting it. That's not success. No, that's ultimate complacency.
That's right, and that's what it is. All right, let me get Mark's question here. He said, I have a question about some pending legislation with the NCHSAA. A local morning show was interviewing someone that was a part of the association in the western part of the state about it. The gentleman was livid about the pending legislation and said he knew of no one, no coach, no ADs that thought that what the legislatures were proposing was a good idea. He thought it was a horrible thing, as a matter of fact. He's talking about the state has voted and approved in its law that the complete control and oversight of the High School Athletic Association will now fall under the North Carolina State Superintendent and the Board of Education on the state level. Now, let me tell you what I think is going to happen. Okay, this is what Lanny thinks is going to happen. I don't think you see a complete overhaul. I think you're just seeing a change at the top because they want somebody else in there that will be more transparent and work deeper with the legislature. And that's what's going to happen. Now, do I see everybody walking away? No. Do I see them getting rid of everybody? No, because nobody knows how to put championships together, officials, and everything else. They're going to keep the basic group together. It's not going to be a complete overhaul. This has been a constant struggle between the head of the High School Athletic Association and the legislature. And I hate to say that, but there's no other way you can look at it and say it's not.
Who does the legislature represent?
The people. Supposed to.
What?
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. Everybody's up in arms about this, but let's wait and see what happens. Let's wait and see what happens. I'm not putting it out there as gloom and doom. Here's the thing, and I've said this over and over. And if you understand how this works, anything that the Athletic Association voted on, if it was a yes or no vote, the wording of the question would always be that if you didn't vote, it went down as the vote that the association wanted. Because the rules in the bylaw said we've got 400, let's just say for simplicity's sake, we got 300 schools, 300 members. If only 50 of those voted, and 50 of them voted yes, and 10 of them voted no, well, the other 250 got counted as no's. Because you didn't vote, that's automatically a no. How is that right? You don't do any other type of legislation or any other type of votes. You don't hold any other votes like that. It also, there was a lot of them that was either a supermajority as 75%, or it was a 66% majority. What happened to 51%? What happens if this group of people have more votes than this group of people? That should be enough. But they didn't, and I've seen it play out over and over. Mark said the guy claimed that they were completely transparent already. I was pretty sure you had said in the past they were not. I don't think. I'll tell you this, Mark. From the time that the legislature came in and said, okay, we're going to be the oversight of the High School Athletic Association, everything has stopped to the media. There are no media releases anymore. about anything. It has to be something that you can't get anywhere else. We used to get emails from the association daily as media members. Here, the newspaper, and now you're getting none. I don't think they're completely transparent. I've never thought they were completely transparent. I think that was one of the problems. And I think because they wanted to fight about it, it's why the legislature, and you can't fight with a governmental agency. They will win. They will keep screwing that thing around until they get it like they want it. It would have been better off if they had just gotten through the rough spot that they had, and maybe things wouldn't have changed. But I just don't see a complete overhaul of the state controlling body and the people that are doing it. I just don't. I don't want the legislatures making those kind of decisions, and I don't think they will.
They're not going to.
They're not going to.
That's not the
They just
purpose
want
of
control.
this. Well, the purpose is oversight.
That's right.
And unfortunately, there was a period of time where many people felt that there wasn't enough of that, and that decisions were being made, that were maybe not in the best interest.
And this is not just on Q's watch. This goes back to Charlie Adams and other leaders.
But no, I mean, and things like that are going to happen. I just think all of this with the shutdown has reared its ugly head.
I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
So, out of all the undefeated teams in the in college football as terms of power rankings, so I'm gonna go to top 25 real quick.
Just go to the top 10.
All right,
Yeah.
Do top 10. So, out of these 10 teams, Utah, Oregon, USC, Washington, Penn State, Florida State, Ohio State, Texas, Michigan, and Georgia, out of all those teams, which one of them do you think that Alabama can beat?
Give me that list one more time.
Utah,
Yes.
Oregon,
Yep.
USC,
Yep.
Washington,
Yep.
Penn State,
Yep.
Florida State,
Yep.
Ohio State,
No.
I'm 50-50 on that.
Texas.
Well,
we've already seen that they did.
Yeah.
They didn't. Michigan.
no.
Yeah.
I think there's 3 losses in there.
Potentially 3,
Yeah.
I think.
And you used to couldn't say that.
Georgia.
Well, yeah, but we
And
don't know
number
about
one.
Georgia yet. Nobody's
Georgia ain't
convinced
played
on
nobody
Georgia.
yet.
Right.
No.
We don't know. So,
Yeah.
the whole thing, Laney, with the High School Athletic Association is this. There's always going to be things in the governing body that has no oversight over it when you're using taxpayer-funded money, right, that when you charge fees and fines and things like that, there's going to be questions involved, okay? And right now, we're at the point where in our state, there's a little bit more hands-on, all right, about, hey, wait a minute, what's going on with this, then it's hands-off, okay? So, things ebb and flow. Nothing ever goes 100% one way and 100% another. It ebbs and flows between 75 and 25. That's the way everything's set up in our country, regardless of the way that we all feel. That's why they appoint judges and, all these things, because when one area gets too far this way, you have appointed judges on this side over here that bring things back into balance. And that's why things are so important. People talk about democracy. We're a constitutional republic. We're not a democracy, okay? It's not a majority rules. It's, the protection of the minority while you have voting capacity in other areas, right? So, this whole thing will play itself out. I think there probably are some people that had some issues with the leadership at the High School Athletic Association. I can understand that based on things that were said. Okay, the perception of the way that things come across, that doesn't make that person wrong. It's just perception sometimes breeds the reality that we're in. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And, there's some people that had enough. I did not like the fact that we shut football down. I did not like that. I told, our head coach here in Maiden and several other coaches that I talked to across the western part of the state, and even a couple guys in the eastern part of the state, I said it was in late April, early May of 2020. I said, they're already talking about shutting football down. This is the response I got. They'll never do that. They can't do that. They'll never. I said, you better get on top of it now, or your rear ends are not going to be playing in the fall. So you need to come together as a football coach. Well, yeah, but we got all this going on. Hold on, wait a minute. We have been through this before, okay? yes, things are, obviously not good. We got things running rampant across. You've got to get together, over Skype, whatever it is you do, Zoom, and you've got to talk about this because the other states around us are not going to stop. The ones above us might, but the ones below us aren't. We're going to lose kids to that too. And then there was a rule, well, if you transferred to South Carolina in the fall, you can't come back to North Carolina and play in the spring. But you limited the opportunity that these kids had. And that's what's happening.
You forced their hand.
Yes, by the decisions you made because you were privy to information that we didn't have. That, number one, that is not true. Okay, everything was based off of narrative because the facts were unknown. It was the assumptions, perceived assumptions, right? I don't care whether people agree or disagree that we should not have played football, we should have shut down this, that, and the. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about any time anything happens and you take opportunity away, then people are going to seek other means.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay? And, if you want to remain relevant, and I'm talking about high school sports, people say, oh, high school sports have always been. Let me tell you something. I don't know how relevant recruiting in basketball and baseball are anymore. Softball, volleyball.
Right.
In high
they get
school,
it from other sources.
Right. Football still is, but let me tell you something. That's changing.
Yep.
Look down in Charlotte. Look at the clubs that are forming.
Yep. No, you're right.
And it doesn't mean that, anybody's bad or wrong. What I'm saying is things are adapting.
Yeah.
And you've got to get out in front of it and not say, well, this is the way we've always done it here, and that's why we're successful.
Oh, I know.
What's your definition of success?
Everybody's got a different one.
Well, no, that's the problem.
Yeah.
It's in the eye of the beholder. And, that's when you have a set of rules, and then all of a sudden you don't go by it. But to fit a narrative. You can't do that.
Let me ask you
and
this.
expect people to just sit back forever and ever, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to do it.
Yeah.
I can tell you I was not happy about football being shut down.
There's a lot of people weren't.
Well, I mean.
About all the sports.
Let me tell you something. We'll talk off there. There's a lot more going on to that than you would imagine.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't, now whether it's right or wrong, whatever, whatever. But the problem was, it was, it's not, yeah.
Kenny asked, let me answer a couple questions before we get out of here. Kenny said, state wants to get his hands on the endowment money. Well, Kenny, they can't because they were already a foundation.
It's a 501c3.
Yeah, they can't touch it. And that's what stirred this up again is when they took that endowment money and put it in something else because they could. That was no longer in the NCHSAA.
$42 million, right? I mean, whatever, right? But that's off of.
And Tyler, he said, what happened to that endowment fund money, and that caused a big stink. If the association had come and said, hey, we don't want to be in the scholarship business. These schools are hurting right now. We're going to divvy this money up and give it back and keep a little rainy day fund. And then Ronnie said, with the legislative change, will all charter private schools be allowed to join? No. The charter schools can now because they get public money. They get the same per pupil allotment as any public school.
That's correct.
And then let's see. Bob said many topics would be addressed by the High School Athletic Association only to be controlled by them who schools would not vote. That's exactly my point that I was saying, Bob. And the other side of it is, and I said this before and I'll quit. I'll get off the soapbox. You had a board of directors that were kind of handpicked. You can say they were elected, whatever. That board never went against anything leadership wanted to do that I'm aware of. And you've got to, as you said, you got to have checks and balances. If a decision was made for a suspension, was made on a school, on a player, you had the ability to appeal it, but it was like the NFL. The person that issued the suspension got to decide whether it was valid or not.
And it's like this, okay? Those that covet power scream the loudest.
Yep.
And power is only a perception anyway. You give people that.
Yeah.
You empower them through your actions, right? So it's just one of those things that it's not real. It's just a perception.
Voting.
Okay, but when power goes away, and we see it in politics all the time, and or the perception of that power you think you got starts going away, people start screaming the loudest.
Yep.
And sometimes, that's not a bad thing. The issue is in this situation, things have evolved and adapted over time. There have been rules that have been put in certain sports that are only done off of narrative and not based off of supposed science, which you're always supposed to follow that, right? How's that worked out? Okay. That especially in baseball, that I wholeheartedly, personally and professionally disagree with. Okay, because it's pitching rules and you can't play but this many games and do that. Why is it any different? The kid can go play 6 games in Legion ball during the week, but you can only play 4 in high school. Well, that's high school. We're not doing this, and we're not doing. Well, wait a minute. Is it about providing opportunity or just holding everybody back?
Yeah. Well,
Now,
I just
well,
don't
they
think.
got academics they got to worry about. Look. Let's just throw it out there. Nobody really. I say nobody really cares. That's not true. That's not really the motivating factor for most people that play sports is academics, unless you're going to be a doctor or. You already know you're going to get it.
And a lot of people.
It's important, but it's not the end of the world like it used to be, okay? It's just not.
And a lot of people would
Because
not
they
be.
know that's not the way the world is anymore.
They wouldn't be taking that educational piece as serious if they didn't have the sports.
Well, that's the other component.
That's another
too.
motivating
It
factor.
kept a lot of people in school over the years.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I'm saying.
And kept them engaged.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but, I just don't want to show up to a class that brings no value currently or future,
Right.
And be told, well, you need this because it's for your own good.
Right.
Well, that's fine. Okay, I'm young. I don't know any better. Please explain that to me. And when you can't and you're just justifying babysitting, then there's an issue.
That goes back to the because.
Yeah, well,
Just because.
and again, we have transitioned out of that world.
Mm-hmm.
When you and I were in school, you do it because I told you to. That's no longer valid.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'll tell the kids sometimes that we coach, you do this because I want you to do this because it's in your best interest. You may not understand that now,
Right.
but you will when you get older. And right now, I don't have time for you to try to understand it. I can
Right.
explain it to you all day long, even though you can't understand it. This is what I need you to do based on my experience. I need you to trust me on this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, no problem. Kids either buy into it or they don't.
Yeah.
Now, luckily most do for their benefit, but, again, it's a give and take. And we got to remember at the end of the day, who do we serve? Who are we? Are we being served or who are we serving? What is the High School Athletic Association based on?
They need to be serving the athletes they represent.
Right. The coaches are a very important part of that. The ADs are too. But the central focus should be back on those that we are serving, not us being served. Now, where have we gone wrong in the last 50 years with that? That's not a Q Tucker thing.
Mm-mm.
That's a societal thing.
Right.
It's like having kids come out to practice all week and, not placing them, giving them reps on a team, just making them play scout team all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you serving? What are you doing? How about this favorite quote I heard years ago? Well, that kid doesn't do anything for us. I don't care if he quits or not. If I'd have been the head coach, I'd have fired that guy then.
That's not why they're
And anybody
there.
that disagree, even if I've been coaching by myself, I'd have fired every one of them.
Your job as a coach is to
That's
do
a horrible thing to say.
do everything you can to make those kids you're responsible for better
Horrible
in
thing
some
to
way.
say. Terrible thing
in
to
some
say.
way. They may not be the greatest athlete ever, but you can instill other things and values.
Fired
to
him
them.
immediately
Yeah.
because who's serving who?
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I'm in charge of this and I'm doing that. And you say, wait a minute, bro. I don't care what level you're. I don't care if you're the assistant principal, AD, whatever coach you are, superintendent. I don't care. Who are you serving? It's not about them serving you, right? I don't care. That's where all of this has gone wrong. Public education.
Yeah.
That's where it's gone wrong. That's why you see so many people leaving.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of great coaches, like Kenny's one of them over the years. Randy Fawcett,
Right.
Mike McCree. I can go on. Butch Parker, Tom, Brown, Brian. All these guys I've known a long time. Nelson Watts. There's been a lot of great people come through the systems, right?
Yeah.
That work on behalf of the kids. But you've got some doozies in there too, and that is why. You've got to always focus on value and quality, or you can forget it. It's going to go away.
No, you're right.
Why was Fred T. Ford good when Dickie Foster was there? Why? Because they had Brian Kimball. I can name you 30 other guys at 9 years old on that team that were great players too.
Mm-hmm.
Same kids walk the hallway all the time. And I'm not picking on Fred T. Ford because I think Michael Ramsor is a great guy and does a good job with those kids. I do. And I think, hopefully he can continue to – I think he's got some great teams coming the next 2 or 3 years for what's coming up. But, all these years, there's just been so many inconsistencies in so many different schools, like Madison High, where I was at. You got to get in there, you got to form philosophy, and you got to get those kids out and get them going.
Yeah.
Coach McCree did that when he was at Fred T. Ford. They were good.
Nope.
I mean,
It's everything's a process. It's not overnight.
It is.
And, the only thing that you try to do that I ever tried to do when I was coaching is I want those kids and me to be better tomorrow than they were today.
I can tell you this.
Moving forward.
Randy Fawcett and Mike McCree, and there's a ton of coaches here, okay, but I'm talking about guys outside of Maiden, right, because we live here. I never got the perception, Nelson Watts, Kenny, any of them, that the kids were serving them. They were always working on behalf of those players.
Randy Lohman.
Randy Lohman's a great example. We got some great people out here.
Yeah.
I just think some things got a little hairy at the top, and rubbed some people the wrong way. And
You have to have oversight.
but you don't need to control. You just need to oversee it, right?
You just need to know what's happening and why it's happening.
Right,
and then
just make sure think that everything's on the level, and then move on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Have a great day, everybody. See you next week.